Gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Michigan, the vice chair of the full committee, Mr. Huizenga, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this is the Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Artificial Intelligence, but it feels today like it's the Committee of Ironies and Befuddlements. First irony is that Gary Gensler, while he was head of the CFTC, declared that anything that was digital was clearly a commodity. Now, he should know, he's the smartest guy dealing with crypto assets that he knows. But then again, when he became chair of the SEC, suddenly everything magically turned into a security. Now, you have to understand, Washington likes to declare things either fish or fowl. You know, we want very clear lines on things. Turns out that crypto assets is actually more of a platypus. It's got a lot of characteristics, and it depends on where it is as to how it should be regulated. Mr. Chairman, the second irony in all this is that it seems to me that the Center for American Progress is rather ironically named, since it doesn't seem very progressive on this. I got to tell you, nothing says progress like a, quote, cautious approach to that stops short of pushing into new frontiers. The third thing, Mr. Chair, is that some here on this committee believe it's far better for the general public and America writ large to do nothing, to sit back and just watch the realities of the world pass us by. Now, how dumb can we possibly be?
What's up, patriots? Welcome back to Right View Nation, where we cut through the noise, torch the lies, and speak the truth, no matter who it offends. Today, we're talking about something big, something that affects every single one of us: freedom, innovation, and the fight against bloated government control. Folks, I just watched Representative Bill Huizenga from Michigan light it up in Congress. And let me tell you, finally, someone's saying what the rest of us have been screaming from the rooftops. Let's get into it.
We know that these are issues that we have to address. Now, I'm going to get to my questions, and I actually changed my question based on our subcommittee ranking member's insinuation in his opening remarks that the crypto industry was, quote, writing their own rules. So, Mr. Werrett, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sierra, do you believe that that's the case? I mean, if you guys are writing your own rules, you're doing a terrible job at it. Because Ms. Smith, you mentioned in your comments about a patchwork of regulations that exist across the country. And if an industry, it just seems to me, if an industry was writing its own rules, you guys would have your act together. Or are you actually asking us to get our act together? I'm curious, Mr. Sierra.
I think this Congress has a real opportunity to pass legislation that will address the core issues that everybody here cares about, which include consumer protection and the ability of crypto founders and entrepreneurs to be able to keep this technology here at home.
Ms. Smith, I'm going to kind of move on to this a little bit, but feel free to answer that about writing your own rules. But I'm going to roll it into this. I mean, the SEC's response to digital assets often have resulted in using enforcement measures against many of the companies that you have worked with, some 100 in total, I believe. So I'm curious, can you describe a few of the rulemakings that came out of the Gensler SEC that, and what were their impacts on the digital asset ecosystem?
So during the Gensler SEC, there were a number of rulemakings that happened to mention digital assets. So it was a broader topic. So for example, they covered the definition of exchange. The purpose was to modify the rules with respect to the treasury markets, but they also mentioned digital assets and their implications for DeFi protocols. That rule was proposed but not finalized. But had it been finalized, commenters to that rule mentioned that it would have resulted in them going offshore because DeFi protocols, as the name suggests, do not have a central intermediary that can comply with compliance requirements.
So sticking with you, last week during our debate on stablecoins, I said that Congress and regulators should recognize the unique nature of these innovations and establish a regulatory framework that targets the activity and not the technology. Can you describe the importance of Congress using rules for the custody of crypto assets in legislation that it moves?
Thank you for the question. So with respect to custody, The rules anticipate that there's physical custody, meaning there's a paper asset. That is obviously not the case for digital assets. And so the rules need to incorporate how you can have good custody, meaning possession or control of an asset that only exists in digital form.
Thank you. And Mr. Ware, I have my last 30 seconds here. You noted in your testimony that your company develops software for blockchain infrastructure and aggregated networks. Does the importance of the underlying technology, which you described in your testimony, get lost in this kind of debate?
The technology is important. Self-custody is crucial to decentralized blockchains, decentralized protocols. It's the entirety of it. And it would be great if this committee could protect that right to own property and to control one's own property on-chain.
I yield back.
So Huizenga starts off with a bang, calling out the king of flip-flops himself, Gary Gensler. Yeah, the same guy who used to be head of the CFTC and said digital assets were commodities. Fast forward to him running the SEC, and poof, suddenly everything's a security. You know what that is? That's not regulation. That's bureaucratic power grabbing. That's playing politics with the future of innovation. And let me tell you something, patriots. If there's one thing the American people are sick of, it's unelected pencil pushers who change the rules based on which agency they're running. We don't need a government that wants to pick winners and losers. We need a government that gets out of the way and lets Americans, the hardest working, most innovative people on the planet, build. Huizenga makes a great point. Crypto isn't black or white, fish or fowl. It's what he calls a platypus, and I love that analogy. It's got elements of both commodities and securities, and sometimes something totally new. And that's the thing, folks. We're dealing with new frontiers here. But what does the government do when it sees something it doesn't understand? It fears it, it regulates it, and it tries to control it. Sound familiar? This is the same government that let big tech run wild for years, then suddenly decided to crack down, but only on conservatives and free thinkers. Now with crypto, they're trying to pull the same stunt. But here's the deal. Crypto isn't just digital money. It's digital freedom. It's about giving you control of your assets, your identity, your property, without some federal agency snooping around, telling you what you can and can't do. And oh man, Huizenga destroys the so-called Center for American Progress. What a joke of a name. Nothing says progress like fear-mongering and dragging your feet when it comes to technological innovation. These people don't want progress, they want control. We're not just falling behind, we're getting lapped by countries that don't chain their innovators with red tape and lawsuits. Meanwhile, our own lawmakers want to play it safe and study things for 10 years. Enough. It's time we push forward. That's what America does best. We didn't win wars or build the world's greatest economy by sitting on our hands and playing it safe. We built. We took risks. And we made history. Now here's where Huizenga really drives it home. Some of these left-wing lawmakers have the audacity to say that the crypto industry is writing its own rules. Really? Because last I checked, if they were writing their own rules, they'd probably have more clarity and fewer lawsuits. These companies are begging, literally begging, for clear regulations so they can stay in the United States and operate responsibly. Instead, the SEC's doing what it does best, crushing American innovation with regulation by enforcement. Over 100 companies have faced their wrath, most without even knowing what they did wrong. Just vague threats and bureaucratic buzzwords. And you know what that leads to? These companies pack up and leave. They take their talent, their ideas, and their jobs overseas to places like Dubai and Singapore. Why? Because they value freedom and innovation more than our own regulators do. Ms. Smith, one of the witnesses, said it perfectly. The rules we have today assume you can physically hold your assets. But crypto isn't paper. It's digital. It's revolutionary. And our rules need to reflect that. And listen, I get it. We need consumer protections. Nobody here wants scammers running wild. But there's a difference between protecting people and paternalistically crushing every new idea that comes along. Huizenga nailed it when he said we need to regulate based on the activity, not the technology. We don't ban cars because drunk drivers exist. We don't ban the internet because of a few hackers. So why the heck are we punishing all of crypto because a few bad actors made headlines? In his closing remarks, Huizenga tossed the mic to another witness, Mr. Ware, who said something we all need to hear. Self-custody is crucial. This is the core of everything we're talking about. It's about owning your property, not trusting some government or corporation to hold it for you, not relying on a bank that can freeze your account if they don't like your politics. Blockchain gives people the power to own, control, and move their property freely. And what's more American than that? Patriots, we are standing at the crossroads of history. We can either embrace freedom, innovation, and the future, or we can let bloated bureaucrats and career politicians smother it before it even gets off the ground. This isn't just about crypto. This is about who we are as a nation. Do we lead or do we follow? Do we innovate or do we regulate into oblivion? Do we trust the American people or do we control them? I know where I stand, and if you do too, hit that like button, subscribe to Right View Nation, and sound off in the comments, because your voice matters. Let's remind Washington that freedom isn't optional, it's our heritage. Until next time, stay free, stay bold, and keep fighting the good fight. God bless America.